Good morning, Bangaloreans. Today in the hot seat with me is Dr. A. Ravindra, advisor to the Chief Minister of Karnataka on urban affairs. A tough bureaucrat, a no-nonsense officer, he held key posts. As BBMP Commissioner, he had cracked the whip on erring officials, unscrupulous contractors, and encroachers. He retired after serving the state as the Chief Secretary. Knowing his worth, the government has appointed him as an advisor on urban affairs. Will he take Bangalore out of the mess that it is in? Will he bring in the much needed coordination between civic agencies? Will he advise the government on ways to reduce urban poverty? Will he streamline the growth of Tier 2 cities? Let us ask Dr. Ravindra. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Ravindra, Bangalore has seen an unprecedented growth since the 90s. No other city in India has registered such rapid growth. But an area of concern is the decline of various civic agencies and their inability to adapt to the challenges of this growth. Good governance has become a casualty. The city is creaking and groaning under the weight of its own growth. Where lies the problem? Inefficient planning, poor governance, or lack of political will?
Yeah, a number of questions have been fired, I find. Urban growth is not peculiar to Bangalore. Urbanization is now an Indian phenomenon. It's a worldwide phenomenon. More than half the world is now urban. In India also more than 300, now with the latest census, about 350 million people will be living in cities. And it is the larger cities which are growing faster. So Bangalore naturally has been rapidly growing from the 1970s. In fact, 1970s decade recorded the fastest growth for a metropolitan city of 76%. That has been the fastest till now. But the latest census, the urban figures have still not come out. But from what we understand, Bangalore's population will exceed 8 million and Bangalore urban districts may be 9 million. So there is no doubt that Bangalore has grown a lot. So keeping up with growth, I think all your questions really point out to that. Managing growth, how do we manage growth in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the various institutions, in terms of governance? These are the issues that come up whenever a city grows very rapidly. In Bangalore, and although externally we find some of the infrastructure creaking. Infrastructure mainly, I think people are concerned, one is about the roads and secondly about traffic. This is what becomes easily visible. But there are other issues like water, sanitation, housing. So these are also very critical issues. And government has taken a number of steps. It is not that nothing has been done. Now from the 70s and 80s and all that, for the first time in the 1980s, we had the first comprehensive development plan for Bangalore. Before that, there was no real master plan in that sense of the term. And steps have been taken to improve, for instance, public transport. One area I would say where Bangalore really scores over all other cities in India and where others are looking towards Bangalore as an example is improvement in public transport. The very good quality buses, Volvos, Vajra, and so on and so forth. People are appreciating, they feel comfortable. But I think the big problem, the really critical problem is how to reduce the number of private vehicles. Because in spite of the improvement in public transport, we find the number of private vehicles has not come down, motor cars, scooters, etc. And that number is increasing anywhere between 500 to 1,000 per day. And that is the main reason for traffic congestion.
But how do you propose to reduce them, Dr. Ravindra?
Yeah, there are two ways. Number one is that we need to improve public transport more and more so that people are able to switch to public transport. As I said, bus has become quite popular in Bangalore. The next step that government has taken is to bring in the metro. As you know, in another few days, the first line will become operational. And in another matter of another 2 to 3 years, let us say, when all the phases, all the lines are in place, then I do expect that there will be a considerable shift of people using, that is private vehicles, particularly two-wheelers and even four-wheelers, to shift to public transport. That is one. The second one is that we need to do some demand side management also. That is, we need stricter rules of enforcement in terms of, for instance, parking, even regulating the number of vehicles on roads. These are things, it's like a two-way traffic.
Have you advised the government on this?
Yes. No, I have certainly advised the government. As I said here, it is not merely the government acting. When I said two-way traffic, it is the people also need to understand the problems, and then there is need for a change in mindset there. Because even if I have car, I mean, all of us will own cars. I mean, I think that is inevitable, or scooters. But the question is, whether I can minimize its use wherever possible. Let us say with metro, I can use that, or the bus, and use car when it is really necessary.
So people should change the mindset.
Absolutely, I think that is very important. If a real change.
Dr. Ravindra, poor coordination between civic agencies is the bane of Bangalore. You know it because you have been at it for quite some time. One agency lays a road, another digs it up for to lay pipes. Time and again this has been discussed, and you are the one who proposed there should be coordination. I remember very well. But nothing has happened.
It is not that nothing has happened, in the sense, for instance, even now after I became advisor, at my instance, government set up a coordination committee where I do hold periodical meetings of the various civic agencies, BBMP, BDA, Bangalore Water Supply Board, even BMRCL now. And we do discuss the problems, and some steps are taken to bring about coordination. But I think the real problem is not so much at the higher level. The chief executives of all these organizations, they do meet, they understand the problems, they are able to, exchange ideas and see how problems can be solved. But the real problem comes at the operational level. So, for instance, as you said, if you take a road cutting, somebody else comes and cuts the road. The Bangalore Water Supply Board, for instance, it will dig up the road to lay pipelines. Restoring that road, usually there is a quarrel between the two, saying that BBMP, the responsibility of the road is that of the BBMP, whereas the work is done by the BWSSB, or even the now telecom operators, for instance, cable operators and things like that. No, we have tried to bring about some understanding, saying that let the same agency restore. But there are certain problems. They say very small work, sometimes you don't get the contractors to do these things in time. But that is all peripheral problems. We can't really start giving explanations on that. See, the real solution for this problem is you reduce the number of agencies in the city, or at least in the functions to be performed by a civic agency. See, earlier, as you know, in Bangalore also, as in many other cities, water supply was a function of the municipal government. See, the Bangalore Municipal Corporation was handling water supply and sewerage in the 1940s, 50s and all that. That's why today also you will find people saying corporation water, not BWSS water.
It is there.
But then as the city grew, as I was saying earlier, population increase and so on, many metropolitan cities have set up what are called specialized agencies for water supply and sewerage, for transport, for electricity, like that. But you will find in some cities like Mumbai for instance, even today, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation handles water supply and sewerage, and so is Ahmedabad, but many other cities are switched over. So now, as a part of the reform measures, we have proposed, suggested that there is need for a restructuring of city governance. So the BBMP, for instance, which is the elected body, naturally there has to be the elected body is supreme, and they should really handle most of the civic functions, or at least become the umbrella agency, so that coordination becomes easy.
All the other agencies will come under BBMP.
Will come under BBMP, or at least for the purpose of coordination.
What stage is this now?
Now we have prepared a bill. It is called the Bangalore Metropolitan Governance Bill. And here we have suggested, for instance, even certain changes in the BBMP setup itself. Giving more powers to the elected representatives.
I will come
and
to that.
We'll come to that
I have
later.
But
So
this is the plan.
proposal.
This is the plan we have. This is the plan we have.